I remember the day we found the river that wasn't supposed to exist. It was during the dry season, when the land was thirsty, and the sun seemed to have no mercy. I had joined my older cousins, Baiko and Oti, on a hunt for wild fruits deep in the forest. "Stay close," Baiko warned me as we moved deeper into the bush. I was the youngest, and my job was to carry the basket for whatever we found. The forest had its whispers, the rustle of leaves, the calls of distant birds, but it was quiet enough for us to hear each other's footsteps. We walked for hours, farther than we'd ever been before. The air grew cooler, and the trees became taller, their branches forming a thick roof above us. Then, we heard it, a soft gurgling sound, like laughter in the distance. "A river," Oti said, surprised. "There's no river here," Baiko replied. But the sound grew louder, and curiosity pulled us toward it. Soon, we stood before a clear, winding river, its water sparkling under the slivers of sunlight that broke through the trees. It was strange, no one in the village had ever spoken of a river here. "This must be new," Baiko said, though his voice sounded unsure. Oti knelt by the riverbank and dipped his hand into the water. "It's cold," he said with a smile. "Come, let's drink." Baiko hesitated, but eventually, he joined Oti. I stayed back, feeling a chill that had nothing to do with the water. Something about the river didn't feel right. As they drank, a faint melody began to rise, carried by the wind. It was soft and sweet, like a song sung by someone far away. Oti looked up, his face suddenly serious. "Did you hear that?" he asked. Before Baiko could answer, Oti stood and began walking upstream, as if pulled by an invisible thread. "Oti, wait!" Baiko called, but Oti didn't stop. He walked with purpose, his eyes fixed ahead, his feet splashing in the shallow water. "Stay here," Baiko told me, then followed Oti. I waited by the riverbank, my heart pounding. The minutes stretched into what felt like hours. The sun began to sink, painting the sky with streaks of orange and red. But Baiko and Oti didn't return. When darkness fell, I ran back to the village, shouting their names. The elders listened to my story with grim faces. "You found the river of no return," one of them said, her voice heavy. "It appears when it wants to, and it takes who it chooses. Those who follow its call never come back." I didn't understand. I begged them to search, but they refused. "It's the way of things," they said. To this day, I still hear the river in my dreams. Sometimes, I see Oti and Baiko walking along its banks, their faces calm but distant, as if they belong to another world. And every time I wake, I remind myself of the elders' warning: some paths, once taken, have no return. You said. Even after the elders refused to search, I couldn't let it go. How could I? Oti and Baiko were like brothers to me, and the thought of leaving them to the mercy of that strange river felt like betrayal. The next morning, before the rooster crowed, I crept out of my grandmother's hut and slipped back into the forest. The basket I'd carried yesterday was still sitting near the edge of the trees, where I had dropped it in my panic. The forest was quieter than I remembered. Even the birds seemed to avoid the path I took. I walked and walked until the coolness of the air and the sound of gurgling water told me I was close. And there it was again, the river, as calm and clear as before, as if mocking me for daring to return. Baiko. Oti. I shouted, my voice bouncing off the trees. There was no answer, only the steady murmur of the water. I knelt by the riverbank, staring into its depths. It was so clear I could see the smooth stones at the bottom, glistening like they were covered in glass. Then I saw something, a flicker of movement. I leaned closer, my heart racing. For a moment, I thought it was Oti's face, just beneath the surface. His eyes were open, but they didn't look at me, they looked past me, as if he didn't know I was there. Oti. I whispered, my voice trembling. The face disappeared, and the melody began again, soft and haunting. My body felt heavy, like the air itself was wrapping around me, pulling me closer to the water. I scrambled back, breathing hard. The river was no ordinary river. It was alive. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't move. The song grew louder, and suddenly, I felt the urge to follow it. My feet inched toward the water on their own, my mind screaming at my body to stop. Stop! I yelled out loud, as if the river could hear me. And then I remembered something my grandmother once said, when the spirits call, you must answer, but not with words. Answer with your spirit. I didn't know what it meant, but I closed my eyes and spoke with all the strength I had. I won't follow you. I won't leave my family. Let me go. The melody paused. The air around me grew still. I opened my eyes and saw the river ripple, as though it was angry. Then, it went quiet, and the pull on my body faded. I turned and ran, faster than I'd ever run in my life. When I reached the village, I fell to the ground, gasping for breath. The elders surrounded me, their faces stern. You went back, one said. I nodded, tears streaming down my face. I saw them, but they're gone. The river won't give them back. The elder shook her head. It never does. You're lucky it let you go. From that day, the forest was forbidden to me. Even as I grew older, married, and had children of my own, I never stepped foot near those trees again. Sometimes, On quiet nights, I hear the melody drifting through the wind. And every time, I whisper a warning to my children: there are things in this world that we must not chase. Some paths, once taken, lead to places we can never return.